Hi everyone. A quick audio and video check. I hope the screen is visible and the audio is clear as well.
Yes, Avish.
Excellent. So I'm muting all of you because there are a lot of us and otherwise there will always be some disturbance in the background. In case you want to ask any query, you can either put it on the chat window. In any case, you have the permission to unmute yourself and ask, right? But for the moment, I'm muting all of you.
Sure.
So should we wait for a few more people to come in or can we start?
Avish, we can start off.
Excellent. Who is it that I'm speaking to?
So this is Akash. Let me just give a brief introduction about the club and the initiative that we are trying to pitch in. So, dear batchmates, please welcome Mr. Havish. He is one of the founders of Havish Consultancy, and he is an alumnus of IILM and Punjab Technical University. He is one of the most renowned speakers in the field of data analytics and consulting related stuff. So, most welcome, Havish, to Iift, and we, as part of the Socrates, the consulting club, is going to initiate a new speaker series that is called the Samvad. So you are the inaugural speaker of the session. So most welcome to you, and over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that introduction. A small correction, I'm not one of the co-founders. It's a proprietorship. So I'm the only founder and the co-founder. Okay. Since we have a limited amount of time, I will take the questions later. If the questions are a little longer and you want to talk to me in person, we can pick it up offline. If there is anything you would like to ask that pertains to the entire group as a whole, please feel free to go ahead. I will decide whether I want to answer it now or whether I want to park it for later, right? But don't think too much. Whatever comes to your mind, just put it in the chat window so that we can maintain a record, and as and when the time is right, I'll make sure to address those queries. A very short and quick background. So I run an analytics firm called Havish and Consulting, which I started last year. I've been working on Excel for 20 plus years now. I'm a Microsoft master, a Microsoft partner, and an office specialist. I work both on Power BI and on Excel. I've authored 15 books, 11 of them have been on Microsoft Office. Last year, I was a 40 under 40 for my work done in Excel Visual Basic, so automation done on Excel. I have zigzagged a lot in my career. So I've done a corporate stint. I worked with Reckitt very early in my career for a couple of years. Then I moved to academia for a few years. I taught full-time at a few universities and colleges. I started my PhD, which I pursued for 4 years before I dropped out because I wanted to start my own firm. I also have a couple of years of market research experience, and I've done some really, really large-scale projects for the World Bank, various ministries of the government of India. I've worked directly with cabinet ministers. But at the moment, what I do is spreadsheet modeling. So about 70% of my work happens around Excel and Power BI. The balance 30% is split between Tableau data visualization, a little bit of Python automation, and as and when the requirement comes in to work on different technologies. But primarily, I'm an Excel spreadsheet modeler. That's what I get hired to do. I work as a consultant with Vedanta. I also work as a trainer for PwC and EY. In fact, PwC and EY are my biggest clients. So I do 100 trainings for them every year. So partners and leaders at two of the big fours are taught by me on data storytelling and data analytics on Excel, Power BI, and PowerPoint. Right. So that's the short version of my background. Excel, of course, was my first love, something I started working with way back in school. And during the entire journey that I've had, hopping from one job to the other, I never really stopped working on it. So even when I was in sales, I was handling marketing, I was a key accounts manager, I was in academia, I continued to sort of learn more things and upskill myself, and never was behind the curve. I was always way ahead of the curve, right? And so that's that. The agenda for today's session is for me to give you a few case studies. So this is the way in which we solve problems at the client location. Because I've seen from my experience that at a lot of B schools, the perennial problem is you guys don't know what is it and how is it that you solve a problem at the client location. Because the case studies that you learn inside the college is theoretical, which is great. That's also very important. But in practice, the faculties, with all respect, are not the best judge of what happens, right? Because you really need somebody who has the market on their fingers and who deal with CXOs day in and day out. Some of these examples are going to be a little simpler. Some of these will be a little more complicated. So I will do a combination of Excel and Power BI. And over the course of doing it, of course, I'll talk a little bit more about my journey and how is it that you can learn these things? How is it that you decide whether you want to pursue a career path in analytics or not? For some of you, maybe you want to pursue a hardcore career in data analytics, for which the answer is very clear. You know what all you have to learn. But if you want to learn data analytics as a periphery, for example, you want to become a brand manager or a CNB head, and you want to have data as a very strong skill set, then the answer is a little tougher because data in itself is a full-time career choice. So it's very difficult to just do it over the weekends, right? So let's take a simple example. And let me open my file. Something on the chat window. Let me just quickly check that. Thank you, Prerna. So I'm taking an Excel example to begin with. Nothing very complicated, but a very good demonstration of the way you build a model, okay? Please look at this, everybody. So this is the context, right? We have a sample data set with us, and the organization wants you to find out how are the small transactions impacting the bottom line. For example, in a business, you don't want to retain a lot of customers who are not bringing you a positive ROI, because there is still an element of fixed cost. There is an element of the acquisition cost. There is an element of the retention cost. So even if a customer is not really giving me a lot of return, I still have to invest a lot of time and effort and money into him or her. So a standard question here is, when you do a Pareto and you say that the bottom 20% customers probably are not contributing a lot to the business, you want to find out who the ones at the bottom are. For example, if I say, who are my bottom 5 transactions, right? Let's leave the customer. Let's say, which are my bottom 5 transactions? You notice here that I already have the bottom 5 transactions highlighted. How do we do this? Most of you would know this. We click on conditional formatting and then top bottom rules and top 10, and then we say top 10 if you wanted to top, and if you want a bottom, you do the same thing. So you say, I want the bottom 10, and I can just change it to 5. This is great. There's no question about how we do this. My question to you is, how do you find the average of the bottom 5 transactions, right? So talk to me. Tell me, how would you go about doing this? Average of bottom 5 transactions. Why are we doing this? Because we want to weed out the non-performing transactions and customers from the business. So how would you identify the bottom 5? It's not an examination, so feel free to think out aloud. And even if you come up with a crazy idea, just put it in the chat window. More than the answer, I'm looking at the logic, right? So I want to know, how is it that you guys are thinking? What do you think are the functions that definitely would be required? Anyone? We have a list of transactions, and out of these 18 transactions, I want to find out the average of the bottom 5. Now, how do you find out the bottom 5? This one is very simple. We can say equal to small. Sure. So absolutely. So Weber, we would not want to sort it in an ascending order, because that means you are manually doing that. It would require you more time. It would require to mess with the original database. And what if tomorrow I ask you, show me the top 5? Then again, you will have to revert it and then again apply a filter. I want to do this using a function, not using a manual approach. Okay. Exactly, Sudha. So we want to use a small function. So I select my array. Now, small takes the k value. The kth value is the position. So if I say 1, the first smallest number is nothing but the minimum number, which is 121, right? And let me just turn on my annotation tool as well. Okay, excellent. So as you can see, 121 is my smallest number, and that's clearly visible here. My question is this: if you want to find the 5 smallest numbers, what would you do? Now for this, we will use an array. Now, those of you who come from an engineering background would know what arrays are. I would assume that some of you don't come from an engineering background or probably have not done any programming. For those of you who don't know what an array is, an array basically is just a collection of different items, right? So rather than saying that we only want to find the first smallest number, I will make an array using curly braces. Again, a lot of you, even those of you who have been working on Excel, would never have seen these curly braces or brackets earlier, which is okay. This is a topic in Excel which is advanced, and a lot of people don't know about this. Akash, I am sitting in the same location where I sit every day for my sessions, so definitely not a problem from my end. Can the others confirm if there is some background noise for you as well, or is it an isolated case with Akash? Is it okay for the others?
It seems there is an issue for multiple people across the batch regarding the noise.
Okay. See, I have a 100 Mbps connection and I do webinars every day.
Okay,
So
fine.
it's very unlikely. I'm just saying it's very unlikely that the problem is from my end. Excellent.
Sure.
So thank you, everybody. See, I'll tell you what, the session in any case is being recorded. So if any of you have any bottleneck, just disconnect and reconnect. Believe me, that is easier than trying to fiddle around with the settings. Okay, coming back. So we have an array here, which we create by writing curly brackets. And within this, I can write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can anybody tell me what do you think is the expected answer? So I've written the formula in the cell J3. What do you think is the expected answer? I've told Excel to tell me the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth smallest number. Anyone? Why would it be the sum? Okay, Yash Kumar, or Yash, it can't be the sum because I haven't written a sum, have I? Have I defined what type of aggregation I want? Do I want a sum or an average or a max? No, I haven't. Mudit, would it give me numbers with a comma? Not really, because why would it decide on its own that I want to delimit it with a comma? And think about it, even if it's somehow delimited with a comma, does that help me? No, it doesn't. It's only going to complicate things even more. So I'm not sure why you say 1, but this is what will happen. Please watch, everybody. When I press enter, let me just put this in. You notice that it spills my formula into 5 cells like this. Right? Now, why is the value coming in 5 cells? Because Excel is basically telling me that, Havish, you have told me to give you 5 results, but you haven't given me 5 cells to give 5 results. You've only given me one cell called J3. So I don't know what to do. So Excel automatically spills the result into different cells. Now, this is a new development in Excel. This concept is called dynamic arrays. So most of you would not have heard of this. Dynamic arrays were introduced in Excel in 2018 fall, so in October of 2018, and they are still in a beta stage. That means that they have not been rolled out to all users of Excel. So even if you're working on the latest build of Excel, Microsoft 365, some users might have it, some users might not have it. So don't worry if you don't have it. In all likelihood, if you guys are working on Microsoft 365, there is a 10% chance you will have it. If you're working on 16, 19, 13, 10, whichever version, you will notice that it is not compatible. And the reason is because dynamic arrays are a new feature. And dynamic, why does it say that I need the pro version? I don't have the pro version. Nevertheless, let me close this. I think my annotation tool will not work today. So as you can see, it says that it was announced in 2018. More importantly, it will only be available for Excel for Microsoft 365. Which means that if you have any other version of Excel other than Microsoft 365, it will not work on your systems. So Microsoft is now selling its monthly subscription. So rather than purchasing the software outright, which companies used to do, which is a perpetual license, Now you will have to subscribe to it like a Netflix or an Amazon Music subscription. Right. So we have these 5 numbers, which is great, but there's a bit of a problem, isn't there? If I write equal to sum, or let's say the average in our case, of course it will tell me the average. That works perfectly. But then how do I make the formula dynamic? Which means that I want to write 3 here so that it tells me the average of the bottom 3. If I write 7 here, it should tell me the average of the bottom 7. Now, which means that these numbers cannot be written by me manually. And I'll tell you the reason why. Imagine you're working with a transactional data for Big Bazaar, and they have 10 lakh transactions that happen every month. And they tell you to find out the average of the bottom 5,000. What do you think? Are you going to write 1, 2, 3, n till 5,000? Of course not. Is it possible? Yes. Is it practical? No. So we need to find a way to make this range of items from 1 to 5 dynamic. How do we do this? I will say equal to 1 because I know that my first value is 1, and we'll concatenate with a colon, and then we'll again concatenate with a number. So what's going to happen? The result will be 1:7 like this. Okay. Now if I say equal to row, just watch carefully everybody, row 1, 3, what does it do? It gives me 1 to 3. If I say row 1, 10, it gives me 1 to 10. So basically the row function is able to give you a list of all the row numbers that you have selected. For example, if I said 5, 10, you will get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 like this. But then how do we combine this with this? Now, a lot of you will say, Havish, why can't we just say row of J7? But that will not work. It will just give you the result as 7. The reason is, when you say row of J7, you know what it is doing? It is actually telling you the row number of the cell J7. Now, because J7 is the 7th row, it is telling you that that is the 7th row. But that's not what we want, right? We want the value in J7 not to be picked up as a cell, but to be picked up as a range. And for this, we use an indirect function. So what will happen? The indirect will make sure that the value in J7, which is 1:8, is not a text value, it is a range, which means it is 1:8 as a range. And when I put 1:8 in the row, it will give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which means that now I made it dynamic. So if you notice, when I change the number, this changes, and then correspondingly, the row also changes. And how do we use all this? I can just copy this, come back, and rather than writing all this, we can just put our row here, right? And I'll make this as 1. We've already done this. So we have 1 second. Let me just remove everything else. So we have 1, and we concatenate a colon, and we concatenate the number 5. And you know what we have done now? When I make this 1, it tells me that the smallest number is 121. When I make it 2, it tells me, without having to solve the data, that the average of the bottom 2 numbers are 132, which is 121 and 143, right? And you get the idea, right? So if I make it 5, it tells me average of the bottom 5 is 153. Any questions on this, anyone? So this is how modeling is done, right? So when people say that, oh, we are an advanced Excel user and I work for a BCG or I work for a strategy and I do Excel modeling, this is what that means. Excel modeling doesn't mean you're doing statistical analysis and forecasting. This is what Excel modeling refers to. Any questions on this, anybody? All good? All right. Now, if I add another number below this, will it get picked up? Yes or no? Sure. I'll explain what the indirect is. So when I put a number 10, of course, it will not work because how does the formula know that I've added one more value? Okay. I will. Allow me to explain indirectly. Just let me complete this example. So what we're doing is, in fact, you know what? Let me explain indirect first. So I have 10 and 20, and I've written C3. What will be the answer? In E9, I have written equal to C9. So what will be the answer? Will the answer be C3 or will the answer be 10? Why not 10? But why not 10? Because C3 is a cell, isn't it? And the cell C3 has a number 10 in it. So all of you are saying that, okay, it's going to show you the value from C9, which is the text, which is an alphanumeric letter, letter followed by a number. But what if I want, you're absolutely right, it will show me C3. But what if I want the value from C3 to be shown here? So I'll have to put this as indirect. And then what will happen? The formula in E9 is indirectly going to C3 via this platform, okay? Which means that it is not showing me the value in C9. It is showing me the value from the cell written in C9. So it will show me 10. And if I make this C4, it will show me 20. Right? I hope that made sense. So there are 5. You can, sort of. I mean, not exactly, because object model in Excel is very different. But yes, you can say that. So there are a few functions in Excel that are used for modeling. So we have indirect, index, match, address, offset, then you have row, then you have column, right? So these functions, and we have one final one, which is equal to cell. Most of you would not have heard of the cell function earlier. So these functions, these 8 functions are about 90% of how modeling happens, right? Nobody can create a good model without using some of these functions in a combination. It's not my opinion that I'm sharing with you. This is just a fact, right? Because these are modeling functions, and how you learn to combine all of them and bring out the best from combining them is how you become a better Excel user. Okay, so I hope that was clear. Now, coming back to my question, I was saying that what if I add another number? Now, I don't want to go back and change the formula every time. Now, some of you might say, but Havish, why can't you just say H:H? That will select all the values. You can, it's not that you can't. Like, I can select column HH and of course it works, but this is not considered a good practice. You never select the entire column with 1 lakh, 1 million rows in it, 10 lakh rows in it, just like that. It's considered a very bad habit. This is cheating. You're not supposed to do this. And it's not considered to be a good modeling technique to follow. So what we want is that value of, please watch everybody. I want that value of equal to H4, which I know is the first value. And then I concatenate a colon, and I concatenate an H, and I concatenate, please watch this, I concatenate last number, which is 21. Okay. So you notice that my result comes as H4 colon H21. Fair enough, everybody. Now, how will this work? We have already done this. If I make an indirect, what will it do? It will show me the values from, let me just change the format here. It will show me the values from H4 to H21. But here's my question. You have put the number 21 because you knew that 21 was the last used row in your worksheet. But what if it becomes 22 and 25 and 29 in the future? Which means that this has to be dynamic. And how do we do that? Teaching you how to do this is beyond the scope of a 1-hour guest lecture, but this is how we do it. If I say match 9.99E plus 307 and I search for that in column H, the result will always tell me the last used row. Okay, it's one of the best kept secrets in Excel. I'll explain some other time how this works, but what it does is it tells you that which is the last used row in column H. It is 21. And notice what happens. If I add some more numbers, do you see how every time I do this, this number is changing? Which is great. This is exactly what I wanted. So I can select the match and put it instead of this 21. So what will happen? Right now it is showing you from H4 to H21, but the moment you add some more numbers, do you see how the numbers keep on increasing? And the final step that is left is to simply say that all of this will come inside a indirect like this. And then finally, this indirect will come as a replacement for your array like this, right? And if you notice, we have created something really, really smart now. I can find out the average of the number of numbers that I want from the bottom. And if I add some more numbers at the bottom, you notice it still works, right? So I know the final formula looks a little long, but I mean, that doesn't matter, right? You don't judge your code by the number of lines of code. It's more about the blocks of functions that we have written. So if I break it down into different lines, you will notice that we created our entire array. Then we're using a row function like this. You can break it down however you like to, but this is fundamentally, and this is a very generic example that I'm giving you. This is something I use all the time. How do you find out the last used row in Excel? Because from a programming viewpoint, you always want to find out how many rows has the user used. Because see, in Excel, you can't do that automatically. That is why we had to use this match function here, right? If any one of you work on VBA, I don't know if you do or not, in VBA, there's a concept of finding the L row, which is called the last row. But that is Visual Basic. See, with Visual Basic, it's very simple because it's programming. So I can just write a single line of code, which is this one. So if you notice, this is my single line of code. I say cell rows.count, comma 1, end xlr.row. This means rows.count is 1048576, total number of rows in a single column. The 1 will just be the column where you're searching, and the end xlr row will mean you're pressing Control up arrow, right? So it's easier when you do it in programming, but interestingly, when you do it on Excel directly, it becomes a little long, I know. But the good part is it's a generic formula. So you can just copy and paste it wherever you like. So we'll take a 1-minute pause if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next example. Want to show you something different. Okay, could we also make a dynamic table instead and use the table name in our formula? So we don't have to find the Prerna, no company will use tables, right? You have to understand why. I have taught 15,000 participants at PwC and EY. And let me tell you, I've taught at every office in the country, all lines of services. And let me tell you, not even a single team uses tables regularly. There might be a few teams who use tables for a few projects here and there, but the concept of a table is never used. For the ones who don't know what a table is, a table basically says that when you have written ABC and 1, 2, 3, if I select the data and I click on insert and I click on table, we are converting our Excel dataset into a tabular dataset, which means a database. How does that work? Now I can say equal to sum of table 1. I'm sorry, I don't know what the table name is. 1 second. My table name is table 9, right? So I can say equal to sum of table 9 and sales column, and it will give me the result, right? And this result is dynamic because I can add more values. I assume this is what you were suggesting, Prerna. But the problem is that clients are not aware of tables, and clients don't want to work with tables because using tables create additional problems. And I'll tell you what the problem is. You know what happens? You go to a client and you tell him that I have made a table and you're going to like it. They come back to you shouting at you saying, Havish, when I write equal to and I select a value, what is it? What is this happening? I was selecting K11, it is now selecting table 9 at sales. It just creates so much more confusion. Now, if you ask me, I think it's a crime not to use tables in Excel. We should always. But unfortunately, a regular Excel user will never ever bother with tables because the way legacy data has been created, the way teams work on Excel are not conducive to creating structured data sets. If you ask me, of course, you should use it all the time. But in practice, it is not possible. I work with the CFO of Allianz. I work with the CHR of Metropolis Healthcare. I work with partners and leaders at EY and PwC. And whenever I tell them, would you want to use a table? They say, no, we don't. Either they don't know about it, or if they know about it, they choose not to work on it, right? But good observation, the tables definitely here would have helped. But I've told you the reason why a table, would not be possible. No, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense if you ask me, because I think companies are making a bad mistake by not using tables. But yes, I mean, you have to agree with what I'm saying because I have learned it the hard way. I've tried my very best to convince clients to migrate, but that doesn't work. Okay, let's do something different now. I want to, it's a beautiful example, okay? We will spend, I'm just thinking, should I do this one or should I do a different one? Just hold on, everybody. You know what? I don't want to cover this example. Let it take 10 minutes. After this, we'll switch over to Power BI. Absolutely fantastic example. Let's understand what all is happening. It says that there are 5 contracts where the date of expiry has been given. Okay. So my first contract will expire on the 4th of February 22. Second contract will expire on the 10th of May 21. Now, your manager tells you that, Havish, even though the expiry date on paper is the 4th of February, we will only be reviewing it at the end of the month because we have a grace period. Otherwise it gets too complicated because different contracts will expire on different dates, which means that when will it expire? It will expire at the end of the quarter, okay, not at the end of the month. So 4th of February will be what? It will be the 31st of March. This will become the 30th of June. This will be the 31st of December. This will be the 30th of June and the 30th of September. Okay. After that, what am I saying? So this would be the 31st of March 2022. Okay, I'm just putting it manually for now. Then it says that a reminder has to be sent 5 days before the contract. So that is the SLA, right? So the service level agreement in the company says that a reminder has to be shot by you 5 days before it expires. That means I will have to do -4 because I want to include the day, right? So we say 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So on the 27th, it should give me a reminder. But there is a problem. The reminder cannot be on a Sunday, which means that if the reminder is coming on a Sunday, then it should get automatically shifted to a Monday. That means, how do I know if it's a Sunday or not? I can just write equal to text and DDD, and it will tell me that it's a Sunday, which means there should actually become the 28th of March, which becomes a Monday. Now, this is very easy when I do it for 5 contracts, but how are you going to do this in a single formula, right? Which is what a client expects from you. So just watch this. I'm just going to say that my month and my end of quarter month, right? So my month is 1, 2, 3. So my end of quarter will be 3. If my month is 4, 5, 6, then the end of quarter month will be 6. If my month is 7, 8, 9, then the end of quarter month will be 10. And finally, 10 will become 12. I hope this makes sense. If my month is 1, 2, 3, the end of quarter month is 3, and so on and so forth. How do we use it? We can say equal to month, and that tells me that the month is, just convert this into a number. The month is 2. Obviously, the month is February. How do we convert 2 into 3? Because that would be the end of the quarter. We can apply a VLOOKUP, and I can say that this is my lookup value. Where are we searching? We are searching in our table array. What's our column index number? Our column index number is 2, and I'm doing an approximate match. Okay, and it tells me, let me just put the $signs here, and it very smartly tells me that, Avish, these are your end of quarter month: March, June, December, June, and wait, this should be September, right? So this should be 9, which is September, which is okay. We are getting somewhere, right? But there's a bit of a problem, isn't there? Now my formula is relying on an external table array. So my table array is this red area. And I don't like that. I don't like it because my formula is not used in isolation. That means that it has to have a companion table array, which means I can't just copy and paste my formula in a different workbook. Everywhere I want to copy and paste it, I'll have to copy and paste this as well. So what do we do here? Rather than selecting a table array, I will create a table inside my formula itself. Okay. So just see this. I'm writing 1, 3. That's my first row, semicolon. Then 4, 6. That's my second row. My third is 7, 9. And finally, we are creating 10, 12. Okay. What does this do? You notice we get the same answer, but here's the best part. Now you're not relying on an external table array. Your VLOOKUP table array is inside the formula itself. Pretty cool, isn't it? Now, we know that this is the month, but we also need to create the 31st of March. How do we do that? We will write equal to date. Where is my year? The year will come from the original data set, which is F5. Then my month we have already calculated. Now, here's my question. What is the day? No, I can't put 31 because I don't know what month it is. So how do I know whether it is 31 or 30? So I'm just going to make it 1, and this will show me the 1st of March 2022. This will show me the 1st of June, 1st of December, 1st of June, 1st of July. but 1st of September. But there's a problem, isn't there? I don't want to find the first of the month. I want to find the last date of the month. So we can write equal to end of month, comma 0, and that will tell me the end of the month. So I would say that the first part of my question is done. This is what we wanted to find out, isn't it? We wanted to find what will be the expiry date, which is the end of the quarter. This is the end of my quarter, isn't it? Which is great. So we managed to do this. From this, we want to do a -4. But here's the problem, isn't it? How do I know whether these days are Sundays or not? So after I do the -4, I'll have to do a text function to find out whether the result is coming as Sunday or not. So you notice 1, 2, and 3 results are coming as a Sunday. Now comes the difficult part. Now you have to use a conditional statement. Basically what we're saying is, if the result -4 is coming as a Sunday, then we should be doing -3. If it is not coming as a Sunday, then we should keep -4. It's just pure logic, okay? Just common sense. So I will say that if the result of my entire formula is coming as what? Is coming as SUN, that means that there is a problem. That means that I will have to rewrite the entire formula. So I'll have to calculate the year month once again as a value if true. But this time I will do a -3. Otherwise, we'll do a value 4. So if all of you can see this, let me just create the text function here. I know it's fast, but don't worry, you will have the recording. I'll also share the file with you. So you can go back and look at the formula at length without being in a hurry. Broadly, what are we doing? We said that, let me find out the month, which is this. We converted the month into the end of the quarter month. Then we constructed an entire date by using the date function. Then we did a year month to find the last date of the month. Then we did a -4 to go back 4 days. We did a text DDD to find out whether it is a Sunday or not. If it is a Sunday, then we're doing -3. Otherwise, we're doing -4. Now, the only problem with these formulas is not that it's difficult. It's very simple. You know, when you write it yourself, you will realize it's not really that difficult. The problem is that I'm writing the same part 3 times. Do you see this, everybody? This part and this part and this part. Why the hell am I writing the same block 3 different times? Again, in programming, you can declare variables, right? So that you don't have to reuse the same thing over. You can reuse the same thing over and over again. In Excel now, variables can be used. So Excel has a new function called let. It's very new. It was only released 2 months back. And it is not yet in public availability, right? So you will not have this right now. It will only get released probably by 1st or 2nd quarter of 2021. But anyway, you can see what it does. So the let function assigns a name to a calculation result, which means I can store an intermediate calculation, a value, or a defined name. How does it work? It works exactly like a variable declaration. So you notice it is a beta feature. So it is only available to Office insiders right now, like me. And because they're still optimizing the features, they have not yet released it. But it will be a free feature. It will get rolled out in the next 4 to 5 quarters. How does it work? It is amazing. Watch this. I can say, let a name, any name, I'm just calling it my fx, my function is equal to, just watch everybody, I'm just copying this entire thing here. And I'm saying that this entire thing is called my fx, which means that I can replace this with my fx. I can replace this entire thing with my fx, and then one final time we have. And what mistake did I make? Just give me a second. You don't want to do this in a hurry. So year month. I think that should be okay. So we say equal to let my fx, and we're writing our year month. It seems okay. Or maybe I forgot the comma, is it? Let's see. Okay, this seems all right. Then we have my fx, and we have. Okay, as you can see, everybody, much better, isn't it? Because now my formula is only these 3 lines. How much cooler is that? Now, to all of you who have not worked on Excel a lot, you know, you guys are the generation that is going to step into the corporate world now, or maybe you guys have a little bit of experience. But the thing is, you guys will not realize how much effort us old timers had to go through for many, many years because we couldn't declare variable names inside a formula. And now that it's there is no looking back. I mean, this is almost laughable. You will be amazed to know the size of formulas that I had to write before all these concepts were there. Just to give you a small example so that you know the sort of trouble we all had to go through. I'll also keep a check of the time because a few examples I want to cover. Just look at this, everybody. This is a project I did for Vedanta. This is an HR MIS automation for the CEO office. This is the exact file that I created for them. Okay, this is a year back. I wanted you to see the sort of formulas I wrote for them. Their IT team couldn't do it, so they hired me. BCG couldn't do it, so they hired me. And this is not even one of the longer ones. Let me show you. Look at this. Look at these crazy formulas. And you know why it had to be such a crazy formula? Because at that time, last year, variable declaration was not there in an Excel formula. So very irritatingly, I had to write the same thing over and over again. Now, of course, you can say, Havish, why are you being a baby about it? Of course, it was just a copy and paste. Sure, it is. It's a copy and paste. But because Excel formulas can't have comments in it, you can't have loops in it. You know, even a copy paste in Excel is very dangerous because you have to keep a check on the parentheses and the line breaks and a lot of other factors. So it just gets very ungainly to handle. It's not that it's difficult. It's just that you have to be very careful while doing it, right? You need a lot of precision while doing this. And believe me, this could have been reduced to like a 5-line formula right now, just by using the let function, right? So that's the power of the let function. Any questions, anybody? I want to do an example on Power BI now, but if there's anything you would like to ask. So we did one example where I showed you that you can use dynamic arrays. We introduced row and indirect, and then I also showed you how you can use a let variable, and then how you can create a VLOOKUP table array directly inside the table by putting it inside curly braces. And remember, this is not the only way I can approach the solution. Rather than using a text function, I could have used a weekday function as well. You know, so that's the beauty of Excel, right? That there will always be multiple paths that you can follow. It's just about which one do you pick, and the most efficient one is what you should always pick. Any questions, anyone? All right. Let's quickly hop over to Power BI because there's one example that I want to cover, and then you can ask your questions and all. Have most of you worked on Power BI, or have you not worked on Power BI? I'm just curious. So have you or have you not? No? Okay. See, basic idea. Okay. So I think at large, most of you would have probably created a basic dashboard, right? Sure. Okay, that helps. So Power BI is a business intelligence tool. Tableau is still #1 in market share, but Power BI is #1 in terms of the growth, right? So it's growing very fast every year. A case and example, both PwC and EY have shifted to Power BI now. Of course, there are pockets of teams that work on Tableau or Alteryx or Cognos or Click, whatever it is, but by and large, organizations are either considering using Power BI as a secondary tool to Tableau, or they are considering migrating to Power BI. So a lot of people say, what's the reason for it? A bunch of reasons. #1, it's a Microsoft application. So the integration between Excel and Power BI is like brothers, right? For example, in Excel, now when I create a pivot table, do you see this, everybody, in the top left corner? I can actually create a pivot table on Excel connecting to a Power BI dataset. How cool is that? This again is a preview feature, so most of you would not have this, but it's good to know that these capabilities are being added. So this gives you confidence that Excel is not being done away with and Power BI is a replacement. Power BI at best is a supplement to Excel. It is not considered to be a replacement for Excel. Never make that mistake. So Power BI is exceptionally, it can connect exceptionally well to Microsoft Office, SharePoint, Microsoft Azure. So your Microsoft Azure, you have SharePoint, you have Outlook, MS Office, SQL Server, and that's where it really helps, right? Because all of these are Microsoft applications. Also, Power BI Desktop is free of cost. So while Tableau Desktop will cost a user $840 per year, Power BI Desktop is free of cost. So the total cost of ownership for an organization comes down substantially. Plus, the learning curve of Power BI is much, much flatter. So it's much easier for a user to master Power BI compared to mastering Tableau, right? So this is the interface. Some of you, like you said, have worked on it. Let me connect to my Excel file. Meanwhile, I also want to show you how the Excel file looks. So we have our Excel file here. The dataset on which I'm working is publicly available. It's called the Global Superstore dataset. It's 50,000 records, 24 columns, and we have data for the entire world. And we have different segments and products and product categories, right? Region, market, city, state, country. So it's a very straightforward dataset. We'll quickly go over this so that you know what all is there. Order date and ship date. We have data for 4 years, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 4 types of shipping mode, customer names. There are 793 unique customers. 3 segments. We have different country, region, market. In markets, we have Africa, APAC, Europe, LATAM, and North America, right? Then we have category, subcategory, product name, sales quantity, discount profit, shipping cost, and order priority. Now, when I connect it on Power BI, we have the ability to ask what we call a natural language question, which means that even without doing any calculation, no sort and filter, no manual effort whatsoever, the moment you connect to a database or in our case, an Excel file, I will now be able, please watch, to click on this button called Q&A. And then in the Q&A, we can simply ask in a natural language the question that we would like to ask to any other user, right? I'll just do that once again. So it says, Havish, ask a question about your data. So I want to tell it, okay, show me my total sale by for every market, right? So you notice very smartly, it parses your natural language query into something that the system can understand. All of this is being done locally, okay? So the query is not being handled by the cloud. So it's not Microsoft Cognitive Services, it's being handled by Power BI internally. So you don't have to be connected to the internet for this. And you can say, show me my total sale for every market, and that's it. It tells you your total sale for every market. Very cool, isn't it? But if you say, no, I don't want to see this as a bar chart, I want to see it as a pie chart, for example. So I can say, I want to see it as a pie chart, and it creates a pie chart for you. But then you say, I don't want to see the data for the last 4 years. I just want to see the data for the last year, which is for 2015. So then you say for 2015, and it shows you the data only for 2015 now. If you just select 2015, it only shows the data for 2015. Pretty cool, isn't it? Now, what if we ask a slightly more complicated question? So I say, show me, let's say my sale by my year, by my quarter, as a line chart, and let's say for my segment. So it will automatically create 3 line charts for me, one for each of the segments for, so the aggregated level here is the year and the granular level here is the quarter. If you want to make it even more granular, then you can say by the month, right? And then it breaks it down into the month like this. Any questions, anyone? All okay? It is free. Power BI is completely free. See, You have Tableau public, which is free. What is the big limitation? Cannot save your files. Okay, this is very important. You can only save it on the cloud. And when you save it on the cloud, then the data also becomes public. So data becomes public when you save on the cloud. But the free version of Power BI is Power BI Desktop. So remember, the free version of Tableau is called Tableau Public. We have something called Tableau Desktop, but this is not free. This will cost you $60,840 per year, okay? Which is the one that I have. Power BI Desktop is completely free. You can save your files, okay? Data is secure, so the data is not being made public. What is the limitation? The limitation is that you cannot share your reports with other people via the cloud. That means that you can only share the reports with people as an email attachment, but you will not be able to share with other people on the cloud. That's the only difference, right? But Power BI Desktop is completely free of cost. Like I have Power BI Desktop, I do have a pro subscription, but that doesn't mean that I have more features, okay? The pro subscription only enables me to share my reports, to handle bigger data sets, and to have multiple automatic refreshes per day. So I can't answer that at large. So I can only answer it taking different industries as an example. So most of the consulting firms, the management consulting firms, work with Click, right? Internationally, the answer is different region per region. There is no one answer for this, but Click is used by most of the consulting firms. So BCG, Bain, Carney, all of them use Click. There are reasons for it. Click is also very costly. It's not that it's cheap. It's just that Click is much more user friendly. So Click reports are not very flashy. If you look at Click reports, they look very simple, and this is exactly what businesses want. And that's one of the reasons why management consulting firms work on these. Then, because if you look at McKinsey, BCG, and all, their reports are not very different. They have the same type of designs that they reuse over and over again, right? EY has shifted to Power BI. This I know because I teach them how to work on Power BI. By and large, most of the teams have either completely shifted or they have started using Power BI as a parallel tool. So some of the teams in the ones who work in consulting, they work on Alteryx. Alteryx is a very costly tool. Alteryx is 2.8 lakhs per year per user, right? So it's very costly. So only organizations like Big Fours can afford it. If you talk about functional areas, or sorry, industries, CPG, FMCG are used to Tableau because they have been using it for many, many years. But even there, for example, I was just speaking to GSK a couple of days back with a global marketing head, and they wanted me to do a training on Power BI, which tells you that they're also shifting or at least planning to see what Power BI is. Organization, for example, Netflix is using Tableau. PUBG uses Tableau. They're never going to shift. What do you think? They will stop using Tableau? Of course not. Tableau is good at other things. See, Tableau and Salesforce are together. You have to understand that. Because Salesforce has purchased Tableau now. When you go to the Tableau website, very boldly it says Tableau and Salesforce are integrated together, right? So I would say that if you're working in financial analytics, supply chain analytics, or as a data analyst, you have to work on Power BI. You don't have a choice. I'm not saying you have to pick one. You might have to work on both of them, but you have to work on Power BI. You have to add it as a skill set. I don't care if you have 10 years of experience working on Tableau. A lot of us do, but everybody is now learning Power BI. If you're working solely in the telecom sector, in the CPG space, then perhaps Tableau might be okay, but you will have to check with the organizations that you're working with. And you know what? It's going to be a duopoly in any case. So I started working with Power BI in 2018. Back then, when I used to tell people Power BI, they used to laugh at me. They used to say, what are you saying? Can Power BI take over Tableau? And look now, 2020, 2 years later, the market has changed. 2018, when I used to tell a client Power BI, they used to tell me, what is it? What are you even saying? Today, everybody knows about it. People don't know it, but they at least have heard of it, right? That just goes to show you that in another 18 months, I think things will change tremendously. The NLP feature is there in Tableau as well, Harshita. The NLP feature in Tableau is called Ask Data. Okay, not Q&A. It's called Ask Data. But the NLP feature in Tableau only works on Tableau service. So only on the cloud, like this, right? You can't use it on Tableau public. Let me just refresh the page. And you know what? Let's not really call it an NLP feature, even though a lot of people throw that term around. This is actually not an NLP feature. It's a, or maybe it's a very dumbed down NLP feature. Okay, my page is not refreshing. Anyway, you can it's called Ask Data, right? And it only works in Tableau service like this. So you can say, what is the average price by variety? Fundamentally, it's the same thing. What you do on Power BI, you can do on Tableau as well. If you want to look at a complete AI-based tool, then you need to look at ThoughtSpot. And how ThoughtSpot works is, ThoughtSpot has its own algorithm, and they allow you to look at this, for example. We don't need the video. Wait a second. You can look at this. So you can say, please watch everybody. You say percentage, gross margin, total sales, total quantity sold by product. So essentially, you're only telling it the fields that you're interested in, and it automatically generates insights for you. So this is their proprietary algorithm that they have called Spot IQ. And by giving the fields, it is able to generate insights for you like this, right? Power BI is not available for the Mac, Ansh, and it will not be available going forward. But do remember that if you go to app.powerbi.com, you can directly access Power BI from the internet. So you don't need to install it on your system. Let me just sign in. So basically, if you don't want to work on, it's like Google Sheet. If you don't want to work on a downloaded application, you can directly go to app.powerbi.com, create an account, and you can just click on Get Data, and you can just connect to a data set, and everything that I can do on Power BI desktop can be done on the cloud as well. Of course, there are some differences, but by and large, report building will work on the cloud as well, but not available for the Mac. If you want to work on the Mac, then I suggest you use either Parallels or you use Bootcamp. One of these things you will have to use to have a dual partition, right? Parallels or Bootcamp. Can organizations use live dashboards in Power BI without a license? For example, can be synced with 300 retail outlets where a customer purchases something at a store and management can view it live? Yes and no. There are different levels, tiers of Power BI available. So we have Power BI Free, that's the one I showed you. You have Power BI Pro, Power BI Premium, and Power BI Embedded. If you want to have, by the way, there's nothing real time. The most you can get is 48 refreshes per day. That means every 30 minutes. If you want a real-time synchronization, for that you need some APIs in Power BI, which is called I'm just telling you the keyword. You can just Google it. You have to search for real-time streaming with Power BI. If that's what you want, then you have to connect to some APIs. So you have either you use push or you use PubNub, right? If you want streaming data. But Arvind, what will happen is that if there are 300 outlets and the data has to be consolidated, all 300 outlets will need to get a pro license. The back of the envelope calculation is 35 lakhs per year for an organization. For a mid-sized organization, you're expected to spend 35 lakhs per year as the total cost of ownership for Power BI or for Tableau. They are mostly at par. Of course, there are a lot of factors that come into play, but I'm just giving you a thumb rule. 35 lakhs is what we expect if there are, let's say, 700-800 people in an organization that need to access the reports. So it can be live. You can have push. You can have, what we call alerts. So we call them Power BI data alerts. So that means that whenever you touch the target, automatically an email will come saying that you have touched the target, right? So like this, you can create alerts in Power BI. But see, to learn all of this, it's not difficult, but you have to understand this is not what a data analyst does, everybody. This is what the guy who's in deployment will do. This is somebody for the IT guy to figure out, not for the data analyst to figure out. And let me tell you, I just cleared my DA100 exam a few days back, which is the Power BI certification. It was very difficult, and I'll tell you why. I am a non-engineer and non-programmer. Now, I have learned programming on my own in the last few years, but by no means am I an expert, and they had questions on Microsoft Azure and SQL and writing queries and all of that, and I was like, what the hell is happening? So the thing is that people say Power BI is only about learning analytics and doing data visualization. It's not, because see, Power BI is a little bit of everything. If you notice, Power BI has R and Python integration in it. If you want to do some Python basic, okay, not very advanced Python integration, some basic Python integration, you want to run an NLTK or Seaborn, something like that, you can do it very well here. Now, if you say, I want to do beautiful soup on this, then probably it will not work, because uh, every library of Python and R will not work seamlessly on Power BI. It's not meant to do that. So Power BI is different things for different people. For some people, Power BI is everything. That means that they can connect to their own SQL server, and Power BI in a way becomes their entire organization-wide BI tool, reporting tool. For some people, it's just a presentation tool. People create a vision, they take it to PowerPoint, they copy and paste it, and they present it in their board meeting. For some people, it's a financial modeling tool, because you can do some amazing financial modeling on Power BI. So I can't really answer that question in one line, because it's different things for different people, right? And the best way to see what all it can do is to we just go to my website, havishamconsulting.com, and if you click on samples and dynamic dashboards, all of these visualizations that you've seen, these are all dynamic, by the way, okay? So you can interact with it, you can control different elements in it, everything will work perfectly. Let it load. So for example, I've hosted the Power BI file on my website. So wherever I operate on any control, the calculation is actually being handled by Power BI. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So for example, this is showing me the sales data, and I can move the slider so I can view the data for a different period. I can view a different segment. I can go to my forecast. Again, I can view the forecast for different segments. I can view different location data, so I can see geographic data sets on the map. Just like this, I have an HR data set, I have a finance data set. You can even have dynamic visualizations in it, right? Not very advanced visualization, but simple visualization. Then from a financial analysis viewpoint, you can have things like what we call the decomposition tree, which is this one. So the decomposition tree enables you to do RCA. So whenever you want to work on root cause analysis, you want to work on root cause analysis, you want to systematically find out the reason for an increase or a decrease, right? And this really enables you to do that. If you notice, I don't have to make a boring table. This is like a table, but this is interactive. So if you notice, I can click on any country, and then it is automatically filtering the rest of the data form. Absolutely fantastic. To some extent, you can do this on Tableau as well. Very complicated to create this on Tableau. In Power BI, this is just a few clicks that allow you to make this. And like this, there's no limit. I mean, you can keep on making as many different. Power BI has over 350 visualizations in it. I'm not even talking about what all you can do on Python and R. Inbuilt 350 visualizations are there on Power BI. Okay, and the level of formatting that you can do is also much more than what you can do on Excel, for that matter, right? So these sort of things is just not possible to do on Excel, right? Like these are all interactive. So from a scenario, this is called the Sankey, by the way. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's a very common visual. Most of the consulting firms use it. It's called the Sankey diagram. I'm sorry, what did I open? Right? This is called the Sankey. Again, very simple to do this on Power BI. And this again is a scroller. I have a gauge chart. I have a tornado chart. I can show my financial metrics. And of course, everything can be interacted with. Right? So definitely go to the website, because this will allow you to see what all is Power BI capable of. You can even create your own infographics and waffle charts and all that. So I'm sure you're able to see that every visual that I show you is different to the previous one. And that just tells you how much variety there is in Power BI. This is Tableau. This you can skip. Great. Any other questions? So see, if um, you are what, first year or final year students? I get final year, right? Final year, right? Okay. Yeah, so that means that by now, for good or bad, you have decided what is it that you will do for the rest of your life. So, take a call, because see, Power BI is non-optional. Just like on resumes, we say that Excel is a non-optional skill, and the more you know, the better. The same is true for Power BI as well. The same is not true for Tableau. People make that mistake. Learning Tableau will not help you, because organization will not work on Tableau. Not all organizations work on it. At least not all teams work on it, because it's very costly, right? And the learning curve is very steep. Power BI is like Excel, you have to learn it. There's no choice about it. There are no two ways about it, right? There's no choice that you have. You have to learn it. And remember, Power BI has different languages, so it doesn't work on VBA. Power BI works on something called DAX, right? So DAX is data analysis expressions, which is used by Power BI, Excel, SQL Server analysis services, and Microsoft Azure. And Power BI also has another language called mQuery, which is a query language that allows you to do ETL basically. So extract, transform, and load your data. Very, very, very powerful language. Absolutely fantastic. I should say R and Python will always be there, but I will never say R and Python in the same breath because I always have arguments with people where they say that should we learn R or Python? I'm like, don't you know what you want to learn? R is fundamentally for machine learning or for statistical analysis. Python, because of its ease, R is very difficult to learn, Python is very simple to learn, right? And you all know the reasons why. Python, because of its readability, because of the white spaces, is so easy to learn. That's why it's very easy for anybody to pick up. So both of them are very versatile, but both of them have their own sets of capabilities. I don't think any of you will need to learn R unless you want to pursue a career in, financial analytics or M&A, or you want to become a hedge fund analyst or something like that. Tell me one organization that works on R. Can you tell me anybody who's working as a brand manager or as an HR business partner who works on R? That's ridiculous. They will not be working on R. At most, they'll be working on Python. So if I had to pick one, I will pick up Python. And is it important? Of course it is. There's no question about it. You have to know what it is. I always tell people that students especially, always follow a T learning. I don't know if you know this, but like in consulting, we always follow what we call a T learning, right? So T learning essentially says that there are different types of learning curves, right? So you have T learning and you have something called J learning. You can just Google it, you'll find it. I can't seem to find the right link right now. T learning basically says that your learning has to be like a T. That means that there is one horizontal line, which is a very wide array of um, uh, topics that you know about. And then there is a vertical line that gives you a subject matter expertise in one area. For example, if you ask me, Havish, what is your T? I would say that my area of expertise is in Excel and Power BI and Visual Basic, okay? But what is my horizontal line? That covers and spans a lot of different areas. I work on SQL, I work on JavaScript, I work on TypeScript, I can do Python. I don't work on R. I can whatever. I mean, I'm just giving you an example, right? So that's how I would put it. That Tableau, JavaScript, TypeScript is in my horizontal line, but my vertical line is Power BI, Excel, and VB. I can't say that I'm an expert in everything. It's not possible. People spend their entire career working in an area. So the short answer to your question, Harshit, is absolutely 100% unequivocally yes. You have to learn Python. Believe me, you will thank me 5 years later. Today, the next 2 years, you will wonder, oh my God, I learned it and I'm never using NumPy or Panda or Beautiful Soup or Seaborn or Bokeh or whatever it is that you're working on. But believe me, there would be opportunities in your work life where you get the chance to either work on it or be a part of a team who's working on it, and you'll be thankful that you know what these people are talking about, right? So of course there's a lot of scope, but do remember nothing stays forever. For example, people are already talking about a new language called Julia. I don't know if you've heard of it. So there's a language called Julia that a lot of people are saying will probably replace Python because of its simplicity. There is another language called Rust, okay, which again is picking up very fast. And then there's like another language called Go, which is Google's programming language. So you know what I mean? Languages never die. For example, there are still organizations that work on COBOL and whatnot. I know of people who still work on Lotus 123. So VBA support stopped in 2011, Visual Basic, but organizations still work on VBA and they will continue to work on it for the next 20 years. Organizations still work on C. Have there not been improvements that have come? Of course there are. JavaScript was there, right? Everybody, even if you haven't worked on it, there's JavaScript. Now there's something called TypeScript. What is TypeScript? TypeScript is something Microsoft has created. So it's a programming language developed and maintained by Microsoft, and it's a slightly modified, more user-friendly way of JavaScript. So see, changes will keep on happening. That's the change is the name of the game. But Python is here to stay. So there's no question about it. And I don't think you should learn R unless you need to. I mean, Python is non-optional. I think all of us should know how to work on it. How much? I think that depends on how many sleepless nights you're willing to spend. But I think some level of Python knowledge, just the basics, okay? Learn if somebody says it's a tuple or a list or a dictionary, you should know what that means. If somebody says I'm doing an arg and a quark, you should know what it means. Just the basic fundamentals. What is a loop? What is an indent? What is a white space? How do you put a comment? I think you're good to go. As long as you know that bit, I think you need not worry too much. Yeah, so that's the long answer to your very short question, but I hope that helped. What else? So what I'm working on is some case studies for B schools. So I teach at a lot of B schools. I've taught at 11 IIMs. Day to compete, right? Obviously. So Ankit Agarwal is the founder. So I've been working with him. We're working on some ideas. I'll explain that, Ash. So what we're doing is we're creating these business problems for management students as a course that Day to Compete will offer with me, and on Microsoft Excel and on Power BI. And what we're doing is we will give you a data set. We'll give you sort of different problem statements. For example, the sales head suspects that the customer loyalty is declining year on year, and you have to find out whether customers are loyal or not. The sales head wants to create an incentive plan for the top customers, and you have to figure out who are the top customers. Then you have to look at the seasonality factors. You have to identify the correlation between different measures, create forecast, best combination for the business, Pareto charts, outlier detection. It's still very early days of conversation, but this is something which I will either do independently or I'll do it in partnership with the Day to Compete. Right? So please make sure to, I think this is the right time. When you guys are sitting for your placements, other than the GPA and the projects and all that you worked on, I think if you're able to tell them that, see, I always feel when a student comes to me, they always say, so this is what we did and this is what we did. I'm like, don't tell me the solution, tell me the problem. A good consultant, a good B school student should be able to come to me and say that I had a data set, and using the data set, I managed to come up with 15 problems. You hear me, right? You understand where I'm coming from. Everybody tells me, sir, can you share some data sets with us? I'm like, why do you need data sets? Aren't there enough data sets available on the internet? You can go to Kaggle and you will have more than what you will know what to do with. I am happy when students tell me that, sir, we came up with 15 problems with our data set. Right? Yash, best resources from where you can learn advanced Excel and modeling. Why go anywhere else? I have a YouTube channel. I think that's a great starting point. No, just jokes apart. I'll share a few links with you. So I'll just send it across over an email. No? I think that would be better. I'll just put everything on an email and send it across. Ansh, hierarchy is nothing special. Hierarchy simply says, if it's a date hierarchy, it's year, quarter, month, and day. Or I can create a hierarchy of my own. For example, I can say that market, region, country, state, city, postal code is my hierarchy. That's all. is just multiple fields that you have put one below the other so that they all connect to each other. Not a particularly difficult topic to understand. Good. What else? The relationship between 3 to 4 data sets. Maybe you can pick it up with me offline, because when you work with different data sets, either you create a model, so you create a cardinality or one-to-many or many-to-many relationship, but I'm not really sure what the hierarchy has to do with this. Right? So you can just, I'll share my number with all of you. Just figure out what is it that you want to ask me, and then just give me a call maybe around 10, 11 p.m. Anything else, anyone?
Thank you, sir. I think so. This is all. And like we have learned a lot from the session entirely, like from the Excel part in the Power BI. It really helps us in the longer run, and we will look forward to future associations with you. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All the very best, everybody. Bye.
Bye, sir. Thank you.